I remember being a young boy at school, coming back from my first trip to Islands of Adventure, like obsessed. I had a notebook at school and all I'd do was just draw over and over again the Spider-Man ride. Like the Spider-Man ride specifically, I remember riding that ride and it just like blew my mind. I thought everything that happened on the ride was real. It kickstarted my love of theme parks, specifically Islands of Adventure, and for years I've just like not stopped thinking about this place. Something I loved growing up was designing my own theme park, coming up with my own rides and experiences. I would play like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 and make a bunch of theme parks on there. There used to be an old message board called IOA Central, and I remember I got like banned from it as a kid because all I would do is like spam the message boards with my ideas for rides. I'd be like, wouldn't it be cool if it was this? Wouldn't it be cool if it was that? I feel like that's just part of being a theme park fan, is imagining how you would do it. So in today's video, that is exactly what I am doing. I am here at home and I thought it'd be fun to talk about how I would change my favorite park in the whole wide world, Islands of Adventure, which it's already a pretty great park, but maybe it could be a little better. Grab your thinking cap and join me for this episode of VincentVision. Watcha! So our first order of business starts at the port of entry, the entrance to Islands of Adventure. And honestly, this part of the park is pretty perfect. I don't really have anything that I would majorly change from this section here. And mind you, like I said, I want this like brainstorming video to be somewhat realistic. I'm not gonna say add a roller coaster in every section of the land and add a hotel at the port of entry, even though a port of entry hotel would be very, very cool. Just things that would make sense and maybe things that can exist in the real world or we've had in the parks in some way, shape, or form. One of those is breakfast at Confisco. I think Islands of Adventure kind of has a bit of a breakfast problem where there are some places to get breakfast food. A lot of them are quick service. You know, you can get like a breakfast sandwich at Cinnabon, but I want there to be like a sit-down breakfast, and they don't really offer that. I think the only time they ever offer a sit-down breakfast at Islands of Adventure is when they're doing the Grinch breakfast during the holidays. There's only one specific time of year to get a good breakfast, and I think Confisco is a restaurant that's right at the front of the park, and people should be able to have a full-service breakfast while they're there. To take this a step even further, I would even make this like a character breakfast, or maybe split it in two different ways, where you have a Confisco breakfast, but people can either pay for the regular breakfast or they can go upstairs and have a character breakfast, because sometimes you just don't want like the character breakfast. You don't want all these characters coming up to you while you're eating food, which I totally understand. This would be a really great opportunity to bring back the Streetmosphere characters that were in Port of Entry, all these original characters made for the park. And you can even use this as an opportunity to bring in characters from the lands, which doesn't really happen as much anymore. I did a video a little while back talking about how like Spider-Man used to go into the port of entry section of the park and like take pictures with people in the store and stuff like that. I don't think he can really do that anymore. That was like a early 2000s thing before Disney bought Marvel. But if we can get at least like the Cat in the Hat to show up, or, you know, Popeye and olive oil and stuff like that, or maybe even a raptor handler with a little baby raptor shows up at the restaurant, I think all of that would be really, really cool. You're getting a little bit of all the different things you're gonna see in your trip to Islands of Adventure, and you get to have breakfast. The second one would be to bring back the Island Skipper tours. And Islands of Adventure is a much bigger park now. There needs to be a little bit more things to do. This is a really unique vantage point of the parks, to be able to take it across the water, go right by the Hulk coaster and things like that. I think it would be fun. Even though you could probably get to the ride you wanted to get to faster walking than taking the boat, sometimes it's a long day. You're at Jurassic Park, you gotta walk back to the front of the park, you don't got it in you, okay? You just wanna take a boat back to the front. Island Skipper Tours could do that. Let's bring it back. But yeah, Port of Entry, not really many mega changes, no new rides or anything like that. Just enough to keep the entrance of the park fun, exciting, cool stuff happening. Now we head over to Seuss Landing, which also, honestly, is in a part of the park that doesn't need that much change. I think it's a really great kids area of the park, but I would add one thing to it, and that is the Mount Crumpet roller coaster. So the Grinch is the most popular character at Universal, in my opinion. I think during Grinchmas, the lines to meet the Grinch are 2-3 hours. He needs some sort of permanent presence in Islands of Adventure. He needs a ride. And based off what we know about Epic Universe and Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure still seems like it's positioned to be the big thrill park. This has the most amount of big roller coasters and exciting experiences. Why don't we add another roller coaster, but make it a little bit more family friendly? I'm thinking more than Flight of the Hippogriff, but much less than Hagrid. A Mount Crumpet roller coaster I think would be perfect. In fact, there is a space in Seuss Landing that you could build some sort of Mount Crumpet roller coaster experience. There's a plot of land right behind One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, which used to have a show that would go on. Now it's empty, vacant space. And you can even see on like Google Maps that there is even more backstage space there where you could kind of take that over and build, in my opinion, a decently sized roller coaster there for families. And you could even do a little, if you want to have something kind of going on in each of the lands, you could do a little fake mountain, right? Kind of like the Beauty and the Beast effect at Magic Kingdom, where you have the tip of the mountain and the Grinch's lair all the way up there. I think the Grinch is just way too popular, and I know, like, yes, obviously Grinchmas is like a really big deal during that time of year, but to not really have anything for him year round, it's kind of like a missed opportunity, right? Another big thing that I would do is refurbish the Cat in the Hat ride. Now, the Cat in the Hat ride is a really, really great dark ride, but it needs a lot of love. And I think Disneyland in California does a really, really great thing where they have their classic attractions, but they kind of do like a 2.0 version of them, where it's still the same ride. They don't really change anything dramatically. They just add to it. Alice in Wonderland has screens behind the characters, so the scenes are more kinetic and there's more movement, they're more vibrant. The Cat in the Hat ride here can absolutely do that. I say close that ride for like 6 months or whatever and redo all those animatronics, make them fresh and smooth. I think all of that is totally doable. The ride itself is such a great basis to work with. Like, they just need to like change the effects or like modify them and make them more modern effects. The next land over is the Lost Continent, and unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say it, it is time for the book to close on the stories of the Lost Continent. Nothing is going on in that land right now. It is literally just a bunch of stores. It is just Mythos, which is a really, really great restaurant. Mythos can still exist in a way. It is widely believed that eventually Legend of Zelda will replace the Lost Continent. I think it's a pretty great idea. You see, people also think that Pokemon will eventually replace the Simpsons land over at Universal Studios Florida, and I think with Pokemon, Zelda, and Super Mario over at Epic Universe, you have a really, really smart move from Universal, because when the first Harry Potter land was built, it was so popular that people just went to Islands of Adventure and they had no need to visit Universal Studios Florida. So whenever it was time to add more Harry Potter, you put it over at the other park, because now people have to go to both parks. And then you build the Hogwarts Express that connects both parks, and the only way you can get on is with a 2-park ticket. So if you want to see all of Harry Potter, you have to go to all the Universals. Even now with Epic Universe, there's a whole Ministry of Magic land that we're getting. It would make sense that in the future, if you wanted to see all of the Nintendo offerings, you had to go to all 3 parks. Zelda is one of the most popular, and I think it fits the best at Islands of Adventure. Though, once we get Zelda, that kind of kills the whole Islands of Adventure is based off of literature thing. When the park was first built, all of it was based off of stories, right? You have the Dr. Seuss books, you have The Lost Continent, which was based off mythology, Jurassic Park, the book by Michael Crichton, Toon Lagoon, all the comics and cartoons that would show up in the Sunday newspaper, and Marvel Comics. It kind of went away a little bit with Skull Island, but like, it was still a thing. If you add Zelda to that park, that kind of goes away, and honestly, I'm okay with it. It's a really cool idea, but like, this is going to be new stuff to the park. And I also just think the way theme parks work nowadays is you're not going to get anything that isn't based off an IP. Also, like, if Universal has Nintendo, use it. Use it as much as you can. So Lost Continent would become The Legend of Zelda. And Mythos, the restaurant there, which is the #1 theme park restaurant according to this one guy, would still remain. It would be based off the Deku Tree. I'm imagining that you would enter Hyrule Forest from Seuss Landing, and the Deku Tree would actually be the big restaurant where Mythos is, but this would also be kind of like a wink and nod to like things that used to be there before. You know, there used to be the Enchanted Oak Tavern, which was a big tree restaurant that Merlin the Wizard was turned into. Now you have a big tree restaurant, and the way Mythos is kind of built, it's all big and cavernous anyway. If like they wanted to go a little cheap, they wouldn't have to like completely destroy the restaurant. They could keep sort of the framework of the interior of the restaurant with all the caverns and turn those into like branches. And now in the Legend of Zelda land, you have kind of like this big tree that's like right by the water. And to me, that sounds like really epic. Now, of course, this Legend of Zelda land has to have a ride, and I think it would occupy the space of Poseidon's Fury. A couple years back, Theme Park Stop put out an article talking about patents for a potential Legend of Zelda ride with a system that was kind of like a hybrid boat ride slash like overhead track ride. So the first half of the ride would be a boat going down the river, and then at a certain point you would reach a waterfall, and like an overhead track would be able to like connect to the boat from the back and like take you over the waterfall, and you would I guess fly throughout the rest of the ride. And it's a really cool ride system, but I have a hard time honestly imagining how that would work for The Legend of Zelda, especially like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I love those games, I think they're amazing, but I also associate them with like vast open fields and plains, and you're kind of running around building stuff. I guess it could be like a temple or like one of the challenges that you would do in the game to get your hearts up. What do you guys think would work well for like a Legend of Zelda land? I think the Deco Tree Mythos would be a really good idea. I think it makes sense. And then I think whatever this boat ride pattern is, this makes sense too. It could be like the boat is on the parasail that Link uses when he jumps off something really high and he like kind of soars through the sky. That was also a big part of those games. And then how Super Nintendo World has the interactive element of the coins that you get with your power-up band. Here in Legend of Zelda, you would have a Sheikah Slate and you would use it to find Koroks. There would be like interactive hiding spots. Once it was close enough to the hiding spot, a little animatronic Korok would pop out and say, "Yahaha, you found me!" just like in the game. And that to me would be so much fun. There has to be like 100 of them scattered throughout the land, and even put them in line for the rides because they're all over the place in the game. I think there's like over 900 Koroks that you can find in Breath of the Wild. Then we head over to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Hogsmeade, where honestly, I don't really have anything that I would want to change from there, just some things that I would add. The first thing I would change with Hogsmeade is every single window would have interactive wand elements. To me, that seems like such a no-brainer. Kids getting wands and doing spells is a really big part of the experience. Every window should have it, and not all of them do, because you can get through all the spells, and then once you've done them all, you're kind of like, okay, I did it. So adding more spells all around seems like such an easy thing to do, right? And then I would add more entertainment. Universal Studios in Japan now has magical creatures all throughout their land. So if you go, you can see someone with like a baby dragon, there's like a little niffler you can meet, and then there's like a stage show right by the castle that has a big old hippogriff. And yeah, it looks a little cheesy, it doesn't look that great, I gotta admit, but it's still so cool. And just like more stuff happening in the Harry Potter land is such a good idea. I think that needs to come over here to Islands of Adventure. We need it right now. Hogsmeade itself is pretty solid. It's got 3 really popular rides. Those don't really need to change in my opinion. I think they're great the way they are. I just think the Hogsmeade Village itself needs some more additions. You know, like we all know it's good, but it could be a little better. And I think like adding some atmosphere with like the magical creatures and having tons more spells is all you need to do to make Hogsmeade even better. Okay, so the next land is Jurassic Park, and I think this one's gonna ruffle some feathers. In my perfect Islands of Adventure, Jurassic Park has officially fully transferred over to Jurassic World. The whole land is Jurassic World. Now hear me out. I love Jurassic Park. I think it is my favorite land at Islands of Adventure, and I love the movies, I love the style, all of that. I also think that it is in desperate need of a fresh coat of paint, and I think in order for this land to get the love that it needs to turn over to Jurassic World. So with that, you get a couple things. One, the Jurassic World Velocicoaster makes sense, it stays, as does the Raptor Encounter. 2, this is the opportunity to change the Jurassic Park River Adventure into Jurassic World The Ride from California, which I think, in my opinion, is a much better version of the ride. There's a lot more going on. It is just a cooler experience overall, especially compared to the current sad state of the Jurassic Park River Adventure. It does not look good, guys. Take your nostalgia goggles off. The ride needs some help. And I think turning the ride over into the Jurassic World ride from California is the mercy that we can give that ride. Then, get this, you get rid of Skull Island Reign of Kong, say goodbye to Kong, send him on his way, and this is where we build the Jurassic World Adventure ride from Beijing. Yeah, we need that thing right now. If you have not seen videos of this ride, here's a video of it. I'm putting it in my video because everyone needs to see this. This is a motion simulator ride at Universal Studios Beijing. You're on a scoop Spider-Man ride type vehicle. You're going through, and there are some screens, yes, but there are also animatronics, and tons of them, including a scene where the Indominus Rex animatronic is literally chasing you through Jurassic World. And one of the big finale scenes is the T-Rex versus the Indominus Rex. They're going at each other, and you have to ride under them, and you're turning around, they're looking at you. That ride is seriously amazing, epic. I think if you completely redid Jurassic Park and had the Velocicoaster, the Jurassic World boat ride, and the Jurassic World Adventure, that would be one of the best theme park lands anywhere. Seriously, it would be awesome. Apart from the entire land getting a retheme to look more like Jurassic World, I think there are little areas of the park that you could add some more dinosaur encounters. There aren't really many ways to see the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park right now without getting in line for a big scary boat ride, especially if you're a little kid, you're maybe not ready to ride the river adventure. Over in Universal Studios California, they have a big Triceratops that comes out and can take pictures with people. I think there is a space in Jurassic Park that they could utilize to create a Triceratops encounter and have this where people could meet the Triceratops and just have more dinosaurs in Jurassic Park all around. Also, have the raptor handler walk around and have people take pictures with it. Bring back the baby Triceratops. The Discovery Center would become the Jurassic World Discovery Center, and you would still kind of have the same things happening, just update the displays, because all of them are 1990s, early 2000s computer displays. They're entertaining for kids nowadays for a minute, and then they move on. There's a lot of cool new technology you can use nowadays. Make the Jurassic World Discovery Center a lot more modern. I love the Jurassic Park land. If you had to switch it over to Jurassic World and you updated the river adventure, you added the simulator from China, that to me, this would be the best land at Islands of Adventure, 100%. Now, Toon Lagoon is a hard one because yes, I think we all know as much as we like it, the theming in Toon Lagoon is old and outdated. It's time to go. It needs to be updated into something else. But we have a problem because Toon Lagoon has the most popular water rides in the park. In fact, they are the water rides. And I think Toon Lagoon exists because of the popularity of these water rides. It is hot in Florida and it's only getting hotter. So rides like Popeye and Dudley Do Rights will get 2 to 3 hour waits all the time. And it doesn't even matter that it's based off Dudley Do Right. People don't care about that. They just want to get on a really fun water ride. So I think if you were to replace Toon Lagoon, you cannot get rid of the water rides. So you gotta find a franchise that exists and works well with water. And to me, it's gotta be SpongeBob SquarePants. We've already gotten away from the literature background of Islands of Adventure with Zelda. It doesn't hurt to have a whole land based off of SpongeBob. And I think you could do that really, really well. I think there's a lot of really popular spots from SpongeBob that you can visit that makes sense. You can have SpongeBob's house where you can walk in and take a picture with SpongeBob, and you can have Squidward's house right next to it, Patrick's big rock as well. You can recreate that street. Dudley Do Rights would become a Mrs. Pearl's driving school where the logs become boats and you're just on a big log flume with SpongeBob and all the characters, and you get super wet because it's a water ride. I do know that there would have to be some sort of actual water play area for kids, because that would be just a shoo-in. In my opinion, the real standout experience at the SpongeBob land would be a Krusty Krab quick service restaurant. And this is where you would get, of course, a Krabby Patty. Universal does something very, very well, which is specialty food, right? When you go to Harry Potter, you have to get a butterbeer. And for all intents and purposes, this is the real butterbeer. You're not gonna get this anywhere else in the world. Even now with like DreamWorks Land, there's the very popular Shrek-Soul. So when Universal builds a Krusty Krab and sells a Krabby Patty, people will travel to Universal to go to the SpongeBob Land and have a Krabby Patty, because this is going to be the closest thing to the official Krabby Patty. Whatever money they spent on building a SpongeBob Land would be recouped with a Krusty Krab and a Krabby Patty. To even go an extra mile, right across the street, you can make like a Chum Bucket restaurant that sells like hot dogs or something, and like food that's like a little bit more basic compared to the amazing Krabby Patty. So that, to me, that is my one idea that is carrying an entire SpongeBob Land, is being able to have an actual Krabby Patty. And then whenever you enter the land, there would be like the Bikini Bottom sign, and then you would have like bubbles kind of shooting out of the sign to represent the transitions in SpongeBob, you know, little bubbles that pop up. And then there is Marvel Superhero Island, which is a land that can't really change very often. There is the Marvel contract, which you may or may not know about. Basically, the long story short is when Universal built all of the Marvel stuff in 1999, they strike a deal with Marvel Comics to keep that land forever, and then any other theme park around them cannot build Marvel stuff based off the characters that exist in the land. What a lot of people think is that the trade-off is that Universal can't really add any new Marvel rides, which is not true. According to the contract, Universal is allowed to add and change things in the Marvel Island as long as it is seen reasonable. They've done that already. The characters used to have like kind of old 90s, 2000 costumes, and then they got updated to newer, more modern costumes. The Spider-Man ride got an update, the Incredible Hulk roller coaster got an update. So they can like change and add stuff as long as they can prove that it's not bad for Marvel's business. So with that, I think there is an opportunity to add another ride to the Marvel land. And I think that is going to involve getting rid of the Toon Lagoon Amphitheater, the currently underutilized Toon Lagoon Amphitheater. They only use it for like special shows and cheerleading events every so often. We don't need that. Not in my perfect Islands of Adventure. You would tear that space down, get some backstage space as well, as much as you can really, and use that to build Professor X's home for gifted youngsters. You do a full-on X-Men ride based off the 90s aesthetic of the original Marvel Superhero Island, which coincides with a show that's very popular right now on Disney Plus called X-Men 97, which has brought back that kind of old school X-Men style. But it's not the X-Men 97 show, it's just the regular X-Men. And that is how they get away with building an X-Men ride. What's nice is too, it would be kind of outside of the Marvel Superhero Island. So it's like the school where it's kind of away from the city, it's away from everything. And now the X-Men have their own little section of the park. This is where like Wolverine and Storm and Rogue can meet people. You have a ride where the queue goes through the X-Men mansion, like so easy, such a no-brainer. I've kind of had a hard time imagining what type of ride that would be. Honestly, I think it would end up being some sort of really special effect heavy screen-based ride, maybe like a dome theater just for space, because there really isn't that much space to build another Spider-Man ride back there. You would do something where you were like in the Cerebro and everyone sat in the middle and there was these giant screens all around you, and you would have a whole bunch of stuff happen, like Magneto's attacking or something like that. The rest of Marvel Superhero Island, honestly, I really wouldn't change. I don't feel like there's a need to. Maybe they can make it a little bit more techy, add some kind of screens to the land to like really add some kinetic motion. But I think that style is kind of timeless in a way, and will always be associated with Marvel Comics, you know? I think the rides they have are already great. I think Spider-Man's perfect the way it is. I think the Hulk is perfect the way it is. Even Doctor Doom's. I think if all that happened, Islands of Adventure would be a really, really amazing park. And I don't think the ideas I have are like really like these like wild out there ideas. I think these are things that a lot of people have thought of already. That's really all I've got. I know this video is a little different than the stuff I normally do. I thought it'd be fun to talk about Islands of Adventure and just kind of like share some fun ideas, things we could talk about. I would love to hear what your ideas are for your perfect islands of adventure. Leave the comments down below. It's so fun to like talk to theme park fans about these ideas, and I want to hear yours, what you think about mine. Maybe we've had the same idea. Please let me know, or if you know like why it couldn't actually happen, that's kind of fun to hear about too. Thank you guys for watching another Vincent Vision. I hope you had fun watching, and keep on dreaming, Islands of Adventure fans. Maybe your perfect theme park will be a reality in the future. Bye-bye.